Chapter 1795. Since he knew these people, it was not impossible for him to be lenient. After all, the Breeze Pavilion Master only wanted the immortal jade bones. Thinking of this, the Breeze Pavilion Master was about to speak. At this moment, a voice suddenly drifted over from the group. Friends? I'm afraid it's more than that, right? Junior brother Yenue, are these people all from the Luo clan? A Breeze Pavilion disciple who usually did not get along with Yenueju said sarcastically. He raised his hand and pointed at the Luo clan. Among them, there were quite a few people wearing the Luo clan's uniform with the word Luo embroidered on their chests. Hearing this, Yenueju's expression instantly changed. At this moment, the great elder's voice also rang out coldly. Luo? The Luo from Luo Qingtong? His gaze was as sharp as a knife, and he fixed his gaze on old Master Luo and the others. The great elder was very angry with Luo Qingtong. An ignorant woman from the secular world actually dared to snatch his Yener's husband. She should see if she had the qualifications to do so. Now that he knew that old Master Luo and the others were from the Luo clan and saw how Yenueju could not wait to help them out, his expression instantly turned extremely cold. Don't let any of these people off easily. Make them hand over all the immortal jade bones they have, then break their legs and throw them out. Great Elder. Yenueju spoke out in a hurry, but was fiercely shouted back by the great elder. Shut up. Yenueju, our Breeze Pavilion does not have any traitors. Why don't you try pleading for them again? The great elder's eyes were filled with killing intent. If Yenueju dared to plead for these people again, he would immediately kill them all. He would let her know the consequences of disobeying him. How dare he help his sweetheart in front of me so blatantly? Did he think that he was dead? Great elder. Yenueju's heart was extremely anxious. At this moment, the great elder had already fiercely raised his hand. Search. Take out all the immortal jade bones they have. Yes. The people of the Breeze Pavilion responded and rushed toward old Master Luo and the others. When Grandfather Luo and the others found out that these people were from the Breeze Pavilion and that they were here for the immortal jade bone, their expressions changed. Not because of anything else but because of the immortal jade bones that they had just obtained, and the immortal jade bones that Lu Qingtong had purified for them. Those celestial jade bones must not be discovered by the people of the Breeze Pavilion. With that thought in mind, everyone immediately prepared to break out. You still want to resist? Then kill them all. The great elder's face was ice cold. He didn't like these people in the first place. Since they didn't know what was good for them, he would just kill them all. In any case, to them, killing some people from the secular world was just like stepping on a few ants. Even if these ants were relatively stronger, it was still the same. Yes. When the Breeze Pavilion's people heard the order, the aura around them changed instantly. They became murderous. Old Master Luo. Seeing the people of the Breeze Pavilion rushing toward old Master Luo and the others, Yenueju made up her mind. Then, she jumped out and stood in front of the people of the Breeze Pavilion. Great Elder. She said to the Great Elder, I am willing to go back and marry junior sister Song Yen. From now on, I will be loyal to her. Please let them go, Great Elder. Chapter 1796. He glanced around and saw something not far away. What's this? The great elder's eyes narrowed slightly. He raised his hand and pulled the thing in front of him. Then, his eyes suddenly widened and they became round and round in an instant. This is. While he was in shock, a gust of wind swept past and snatched the thing in his hand. Immortal jade bone. A purified immortal jade bone. The Breeze Pavilion Master's eyes were filled with shock. He looked at the immortal jade bone in his hand. The latter was exquisite and translucent, sparkling and bright. It looked like a high-quality glass bead. The Breeze Pavilion Master and the others had seen countless immortal jade bones, but they had never seen one like this one. It was brimming with an incomparably pure aura. The power inside could clearly be absorbed. What did it mean to be able to absorb the power of the immortal jade bone? Everyone was overjoyed. Ah, good. Tell me, where did this immortal jade bone come from? At this moment, the Breeze Pavilion Master could no longer care about First Elder and Yenueju. His gaze was fixed on Elder Luo and the others. These immortal jade bones were discovered by them first. They definitely knew the origin of these immortal jade bones. As for old Master Luo and the others, their expressions had completely changed when the First Elder picked up the purified immortal jade bone. Oh no, they were still discovered by the other party. It must have fallen during the confrontation just now. Everyone's expression was grave. They quickly gathered together and stood back to back. They did not respond to the Breeze Pavilion Master's words at all. As for Xuanhuan, when the Breeze Pavilion Master called out that it was a purified immortal jade bone, her heart went cold. With a purified immortal jade bone, Elder Luo and the others would probably not be able to escape this calamity. Xuanhuan knew that a purified immortal jade bone had never appeared before. Now Elder Luo and the others were all here. Only Luo Qingtong was missing. Obviously, this thing had something to do with the other party. Thinking of this, he made up his mind. Elder Luo, hurry up and leave. I'll stop them first. He transmitted his voice to Old Master Luo and the others. The latter and the others were shocked. Falling Moon Jade, Old Master Luo frowned. Let's go. Xuanhuan urged anxiously, don't worry, I'll be fine. The Breeze Pavilion Master and the others didn't get a reply from Old Master Luo and the others. When they saw how resistant they were, their faces instantly darkened. Capture them all and torture them one by one. I want to see if their mouths are all so tough. The Breeze Pavilion Master's eyes were malicious. The Great Elder also had the same idea. When he heard this, he immediately waved his hand and ordered the surrounding people to attack. Everyone from the Breeze Pavilion rushed towards Old Master Luo and the others. The aura around each of them almost shattered the heavens. Old Master, leave quickly. Xuanhuan fiercely pushed Grandfather Luo and the others, then rushed towards the people of the Breeze Pavilion, wanting to stop them. Seeing this, the first elder's face was filled with anger. Falling Moon Jade. Bastard. His voice was vicious. Break his arms and legs, cripple his strength and bring him here. Since the other party was bent on helping these people of the Luo family, then he would cripple his strength. Let's see how he would help then. Chapter 1797. You're really shameless, he said coldly. That's right. A disciple of the Breeze Pavilion beside him said in agreement. Junior sister Song Yen is such a good person, yet Xuanhuan doesn't even like her. Instead, he likes a woman from the secular world and even disregards his sect for her. First Elder, he really wasted our Breeze Pavilion's nurturing. The one who spoke was the Breeze Pavilion disciple who didn't get along with Xuanhuan. Hearing this, the First Elder's expression became even gloomier. Beat him up ruthlessly. As long as you don't beat him to death, do whatever you want. Yes. The group of Breeze Pavilion people responded and rushed towards Xuanhuan without any hesitation. Similarly, they were filled with murderous aura. Xuanhuan. Grandfather Luo and the rest originally thought that Xuanhuan would be fine as he said, but they discovered that it wasn't the case at all. Seeing the Breeze Pavilion people rushing towards Xuanhuan, Su Yu and the rest suddenly steeled their hearts. Protect Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi first, they said to the Luo clan disciples. Then their figures flashed and rushed towards Xuanhuan. Su Xiaoxiao, Little Tyrant Yuan and the rest were in front, while Su Yu and Tianxia's group were behind. Xuanhuan. Swoosh. A group of people appeared beside Xuanhuan, and Little Tyrant Yuan fiercely pulled Xuanhuan. With a boom, the skin all over his body became as hard as iron and stone in an instant. Could be soft and hard. Bang. Following the first attack, Little Tyrant Yuan and Xuanhuan forcefully withstood the attack and fiercely retreated. Then Sima Ju, Ling Tianhan, and Ling Yu immediately rushed forward and blocked in front of them. Myriad Poison Barrier. Boom. The black aura around Sima Ju's body fiercely spread. The poison in his body spread out like a fog, dyeing his surroundings pitch black. At the same time, Ling Tianhan and Ling Yu both fiercely unsheathed their weapons. Mother and son twin swords. Purple Heaven Sash. In the pitch-black fog, the two people's weapons, one silver and one purple, flew out in an instant and blasted towards the Breeze Pavilion disciple who was preparing to attack again. Their weapons were in front, while Chu Wenhao and Ling Tianqian's weapons were at the back. Shua. Their weapons were hidden in the black canopy of poisonous gas, and they could not be seen at all. At this moment, Su Xiaoxiao, who was standing behind them, was spinning her fingers rapidly. Countless medicinal herbs flowed through her hands like flowing water. After which, she concocted a medicinal liquid that could detoxify and strengthen Sima Ju's poison. Then she waved it in the air. Among them, the liquid that automatically stuck to their bodies was the antidote, while the liquid that directly evaporated into the air was the liquid that strengthened the poison. Under the control of her medicinal liquid, Sima Ju's 10,000 poison body was unleashed to the extreme, and the poison barrier was strengthened by several times. As for those who were attacking them, they not only had to defend against the poison barrier's attack, they also had to defend against Ling Tianhan and Ling Yuer's attacks. It was simply impossible to guard against them. The moment Su Xiaoxiao's medicinal liquid evaporated, the Breeze Pavilion disciple who was about to mobilize the energy in his body to attack was caught off guard, and the energy around him suddenly stagnated. Chapter 1798. Bang! The group of people cooperated well and killed a disciple who had surpassed the peak of the Saint Realm in an instant. What? The disciples of the Breeze Pavilion were shocked. They had not taken Su Xiaoxiao and the others seriously before this. After all, the cultivators in the secular world could not be compared to them. Moreover, Su Xiaoxiao and the others had just entered the transcendent Saint Realm. It seemed like they had just advanced not long ago, and their aura and strength had not stabilized yet. They did not expect them to be able to kill someone who had surpassed the peak of the Saint Realm. Even if they had worked together to kill the disciple, their combat strength was still very shocking. Moreover, they had killed the disciple in an instant. Did this not mean that every one of them had the strength to kill an expert who had just entered the transcendent Saint Realm in an instant? Everyone was shocked. Su Yu and the others went up to a Breeze Pavilion disciple who was at the peak of the Saint Realm. Form the formation. Su Yu shouted coldly. The heavenly diabolism and the others behind her instantly formed a large formation. Everyone was standing in their own fixed positions. No matter how they moved, the formation remained the same. Boom! Following Su Yu's action, everyone's attacks swept out in an instant. Under the effect of the formation, they gathered together and strengthened their strength to the level of a Saint Realm expert. Then, with a boom, they attacked the Saint Realm disciple of the Breeze Pavilion. Before the latter could react, he was hit by the attack, and his figure instantly retreated backward. Bastard! The Breeze Pavilion disciple's face was filled with anger. He was a core disciple in the Breeze Pavilion. Whether it was in the Breeze Pavilion or in the hidden world, his status was not weak. At this time he was suddenly attacked by Su Yu and the others and obviously suffered some injuries. Suddenly he was very angry in his heart. He moved his body and was about to rush towards Su Yu and the others when they stopped attacking. However, he didn't even have the time to leap up. Roar! A ferocious roar of a beast suddenly rang out at this moment. Purple fur flew in the air. A violent lightning beast suddenly appeared behind him. With a smack, it raised a huge palm that was like a cattail leaf fan and slapped his head off. The Saint Realm expert did not even have time to react before his head was separated from his body. After all, a violent lightning beast's combat strength was more than twice its previous strength. This lightning beast's strength was similar to Su Yu's, but its strength after it went berserk, it was comparable to a Saint Realm expert at the peak. Moreover, it had launched a sneak attack, so it succeeded in one strike. Bang! After killing that disciple of the Breeze Pavilion who was at the peak of the Saint Realm, the lightning beast immediately raised its head and roared. After that, it stomped its feet and appeared behind Su Yu, squatting obediently by her side. Well done, little lightning beast. Su Yu's eyes, Su Yu's lightning. The enlarged thunder beast was no longer the same as when it was in her arms. Right now she was only as tall as its ankle. Roar! The thunder beast roared happily, its voice shaking the heavens. What? The members of the Breeze Pavilion were even more shocked. The strength of this group didn't conform to the situation in the mortal world at all. How could they be so strong? Chapter 1799. What was going on? Since when did such powerful cultivators appear in the mundane world? And from the looks of it, these people looked so young. Why hadn't they received any news about such talented and powerful geniuses? Damn it! That bastard Jianghu, what exactly is he hiding? The Breeze Pavilion master clenched his fists fiercely at this moment, his expression extremely ugly. The strength of Su Xiaoxiao, little overlord Yuan, and the others as well as Su Yu and Tianxia's group, had completely exceeded their expectations. With such talent and strength, it was impossible for them to not know anything. The Breeze Pavilion master was almost furious when he thought of how Martial Uncle Zhang had cancelled the 4 academies' grand meeting. He must have hidden it from them. That bastard Zhang Diyu had actually let them miss such important information for his own selfish reasons. However, the Breeze Pavilion master didn't know that they had missed more than just this piece of information. There was even more important information that they didn't know about. Pavilion master, these people must all be killed. The first elder's voice was grave. If it was said that he had wanted to kill Su Yu and the others because Yan Yuejua valued the Luo family, then this time, it was because of the terrifying potential and strength that Su Yu and the others had revealed. None of these people could be spared. Otherwise, he and the others would definitely be harmed in the future. Of course. The Breeze Pavilion master's expression was also very gloomy. The strength and potential that Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others had revealed made him very wary. Once these people grew up in the future, what kind of revenge would he and the others who had enmity with them suffer in the future? Whether or not we can obtain the method to purify the immortal jade bone this time, none of these people can be left alive. The Breeze Pavilion Master's voice was cold and gloomy. Tell all the disciples below the Saint Realm to retreat. Have those above the Saint Realm act. Those above the Saint Realm were almost all elders and protectors. The Breeze Pavilion Master's action could be said to be very important to Su Yu and the others. He was unwilling to let those below the Saint Realm take the risk. Yes. The members of the Breeze Pavilion complied. They had already recovered from the shock of Su Yu and the others' strength, and immediately retreated. On the other hand, the experts at the Saint Stage and above who were originally standing beside the Pavilion Master of the Cool Breeze Pavilion and were prepared to watch the show all moved to surround Su Yu and the others. Pavilion Master, let me personally capture them. The Great Elder's voice was ice cold. He was at the peak of the Saint General Realm and was only one step away from the Saint Lord Realm. At that time, he would be promoted to Grand Supreme Elder and have the same authority as the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion. If he were to personally capture Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao and the others, it would be absolutely safe. This would also ensure that they would have enough survivors to interrogate about the matter of the purified immortal jade bones. All right. The Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion nodded coldly. Let the Great Elder do it. Hearing that, the first elder leaped up and charged towards Su Yu and Su Xiaoxiao. Seeing this, Yen Yuju's expression changed greatly. Not good. Run. Don't worry about me. His heart was heavy. The Great Elder's strength was not something that Su Yu and the others could resist. He had to stop the Great Elder. Although falling into the Great Elder's hands would be a fate worse than death, it was still better than suffering together with Su Yu and the others. Thinking of this, he was about to charge out. Chapter 1800. What do you mean we don't need to care? Who said we don't need to care? As this voice sounded, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao and the others were pleasantly surprised. Master. Boss. The group of people looked at the young girl who came out from the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff with joy. Luo Qingtong was dressed in black. Her robe was stained with the blood of many monsters, making the color even darker. Coupled with her peerlessly beautiful face, she looked like a gorgeous Azura who had emerged from the depths of purgatory with a sword in hand. Her stunning charm could break one's soul. Qingtong. Looking at the stunning young girl who appeared in front of her, Yen Yuju's heart was filled with complex feelings. She was happy to see Luo Qingtong, but also worried and terrified. No matter what, he was partly responsible for what happened this time. If it weren't for him, Great Elder wouldn't be so hostile to Grandfather Luo and the others, and the discovery of the purified immortal jade bone wouldn't have happened. All of this danger was brought to Luo Qingtong by him. Including Song Yan's targeting of her before, Yen Yuju felt very guilty. He felt that he had let down Luo Qingtong. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have risked his life to save Grandfather Luo and the others. Luo Qingtong? Great Elder was already prepared to fly over to capture and kill Su Yu and the others. At that time he could just leave a few alive to interrogate and kill the rest. However, before he could fly over to Su Yu and the others, Luo Qingtong appeared. Thinking that the other party was the one who made Yen Yuju ignore his daughter, Great Elder's face instantly turned cold. Then I'll kill you first. Great Elder changed direction and slapped towards Luo Qingtong. Seeing this, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao and the others' faces changed. Master Boss, be careful. After everyone's joy, they shockingly found that Luo Qingtong was actually alone. Ming Zun wasn't by her side? Everyone became anxious when they saw this. Great Elder was at the peak of the Saint General Realm. How could Luo Qingtong be his opponent when she was alone? Master. Boss. Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao and the others all rushed over without a care for anything. Yen Yuju's face also changed and she rushed over to help. However, it was too late. How could their speed catch up to the peak of the Saint General Realm? And his martial arts talent was extremely poor, so it was almost impossible for him to cultivate to a very powerful level. But it just so happened that he met Luo Qingtong. The girl opened the door to a new world for him, letting him know that his trashy soul seal was actually very powerful. Based on the theory Luo Qingtong told him, little tyrant Yuan played with his petrification soul seal like a hot stove. His defense could be hard or soft. With Luo Qingtong's help, his strength also advanced by leaps and bounds, completely shaking off his previous title of trash. At this moment he was blocking in front of Luo Qingtong. He was already staking his life. After all, with Great Elder's strength, Even if his petrification soul seal was 100 times more powerful, it still wouldn't be able to block it. But even if he couldn't block it, he still had to block it. Chapter 1801. Boss, let's go. Before he could finish speaking, Luo Qingtong's hand was already on his shoulder. Swing your fist. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent, and she didn't even look at First Elder's attack. Ah! Little Tyrant Yuan's brain couldn't wrap itself around it. However, even if his brain was stuck, his body still instinctively followed Luo Qingtong's instructions. In his mind, Boss's words were never wrong and he had to obey. Boom! Little Tyrant Yuan's fist directly flew over. Before he could react, there was an instant bang. He felt as if his fist had hit something, and then the other party was sent flying. Itch him? What? Little Tyrant Yuan was slow to react, and his face was full of confusion. After he sent the other party flying, he suddenly realized that the only person who could be sent flying by his fist at this time and place could only be. His gaze couldn't help but move up, and then he saw the face of the unknown object he sent flying. It was the Breeze Pavilion's First Elder. Heavens, he actually sent a peak sacred general expert flying with a single punch. Little Tyrant Yuan's mouth was wide open, and he was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth, and his eyes were wide open. Su Yu and the others also rushed to Luo Qingtong's side at this time. Boss. Master. Qingtong. Yan Yuejue was the furthest away and was the last to arrive, but at the same time he was also the most shocked. First Elder was sent flying with a single punch. He looked at the scene of First Elder falling from the sky in shock, completely clueless as to what was going on. Su Yu and the others also noticed the scene after discovering that Luo Qingtong and Little Tyrant Yuan were fine. Instantly everyone was shocked. BBB boss. Little Tyrant Yuan was so shocked that he stuttered. You've sent a Saint General flying. This is very good. You did well. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She placed her hand on Little Tyrant Yuan's shoulder and gently patted him twice. In fact, that First Elder was sent flying by Luo Qingtong. She directly shattered the other party's attack through Little Tyrant Yuan's body, and even suppressed the other party's aura, which allowed Little Tyrant Yuan to easily send First Elder flying with a single punch. Boss, you did it, didn't you? Little Tyrant Yuan's eyes lit up. He wasn't a fool. There was such a huge difference in strength between him and the Great Elder. Even if he immediately increased his strength to the same level as the Great Elder, he might not be able to injure the Great Elder, let alone send him flying with a single move. All this could only be done by Luo Qingtong. However, even if it's boss did it's me? It feels as feel. Little Tyrant Yuan had a smug look on his face, and in the end he even threw Sima Ju and the others a smug look. He knew there would be meat to eat by following boss. Everyone was speechless for a while, but at the same time, they were very curious about Luo Qingtong's strength. Boss, you were able to send that First Elder flying with a single blow. Don't tell me your strength has already reached the Sacred General Realm? Si Wenhao asked curiously. Luo Qingtong's strength had always been stronger than those of the same level. Chapter 1802. Luo Qingtong looked at them with a faint smile and didn't say anything. Holy General? If they were only holy generals, she wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. However, Luo Qingtong didn't expect that people from the Breeze Pavilion would actually appear here. She looked at First Elder, who was crawling up from the ground, as well as the Breeze Pavilion Master and the others not far behind him. First Elder crawled up from the ground at this time. The attack that Luo Qingtong had just sent out while controlling Little Overlord Yuan had injured him quite badly. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a very bewildered expression. He knew that it was impossible for that damn fatty to send him flying. So, this was done by this young girl? Looking at Luo Qingtong's elegant and beautiful face that still showed her young age, First Elder's heart felt like it was going to explode. How could such a little girl send him flying with a single blow? How was this possible? First Elder didn't want to believe this even if he was beaten to death. He concluded that there must be someone behind Luo Qingtong. Nearby, there must be someone whose strength wasn't inferior to his, or even much stronger than him, secretly helping Luo Qingtong and the others. Thinking of this, First Elder's expression turned cold. If this was the case, it meant that the immortal jade bone, and even the matter of purifying the immortal jade bone, had already been known by others in advance. Your Excellency, he said coldly, his gaze sweeping all around. I don't know why you're helping these people, but if it's for the immortal jade bone, we can split it equally. We can even share the secret of purifying the immortal jade bone together. As long as you stop protecting these people. Otherwise, Don't blame us for spreading the news. First Elder's expression was very cautious. He wasn't sure if the other party was just one person, or if a group of people like them had come. But in any case, the matter of purifying the immortal jade bone was definitely the other party's weakness. As long as he said that he would spread the news, even if the other party was stronger than them, they could only compromise. Otherwise, as long as one of them escaped, the matter of purifying the immortal jade bone would definitely be leaked. The Great Elder didn't believe that the other party had the strength to destroy them in an instant. If that was the case, the other party would have already made a move. There was no need to hide in the dark. Thinking of this, he felt much better. Not far behind him, the Breeze Pavilion Master and the others were also feeling very depressed. When the First Elder was blasted out, they were also shocked in their hearts. Then they came to their senses. When they heard the Great Elder's words, none of them objected. After all, this matter had already been discovered by someone else, and the other party was even in front of them. It seemed that the other party was not weak, so they could only share it with the other party. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread, no one would be able to get it. However, as they waited for the mysterious expert's response, all they got was Luo Qingtong's bell-like laughter. Amidst the crisp sound, there was a hint of evil and wanton. You don't have to look anymore. The mysterious expert you're looking for isn't here. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. The Great Elder's words made her understand the ins and outs of the matter. Immortal jade bone? Purified immortal jade bone? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. It seems that you know everything? Then all the more I can't let you go. If you cut the weeds without removing the roots, they would grow again when the spring breeze blew. After going through all the previous crises, Luo Qingtong would no longer leave any hidden dangers for herself. Chapter 1803. Luo Qingtong's face was ice cold and her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Cold light flickered in that pair of bright starry eyes as blood filled the air. You. The Great Elder looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. What did this woman mean? What did she mean by that mysterious expert wasn't here? The other party had just attacked them and was clearly protecting Luo Qingtong and the others. How could they suddenly disappear? Moreover, this woman said that she wouldn't let them go. Could it be? The First Elder suddenly thought of a possibility, and his eyes instantly widened. You. He pointed at Luo Qingtong and couldn't say anything for a long time. After a long time he shouted, "You're that mysterious expert. How was this possible?" When the Great Elder said this, not to mention him, even the Cool Breeze Pavilion Master and the others were shocked. They felt that he was crazy. How could that young girl be the one who had just injured him? Luo Qingtong was clearly only 16 years old. And the person who had injured him was at least at the peak of the sacred general realm. Otherwise, it was impossible to send him flying with a single move. In this kind of situation, how could it be Luo Qingtong? But if it wasn't, how could it explain what Luo Qingtong had just said? Everyone's faces were filled with shock and bewilderment. Luo Qingtong was too lazy to pay attention to them. She looked at Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao and the others and said in a deep voice, "Surround them. Don't let a single one go." Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. They wanted to steal the immortal jade bone? And they wanted her method to purify the immortal jade bone? Then she would let them come without leaving. Yes. Su Yu, Xianxia, Su Xiaoxiao and the others all loudly responded. They looked in Luo Qingtong's direction and their eyes were filled with excitement. Now that Luo Qingtong was back, they would have a backbone. This young girl was their only faith and light. If she fought, they would never retreat. Even if he had to pay with his life. At this moment, Su Yu and the others didn't even consider whether or not Luo Qingtong was stronger than the people of the Breeze Pavilion, or how much stronger she was. They only knew that Luo Qingtong had told them not to let the other party off. Then they wouldn't let him go. Shua. Su Yu, Tianxia's group, and Su Xiaoxiao's group all rushed toward the Breeze Pavilion's group. Just a moment ago, they had been surrounded by the other party. Now they had turned around and surrounded the people from the Breeze Pavilion. This unforeseen event instantly caused the expressions of the pavilion master and the others to change drastically. They looked at the young girl with a wicked and enchanting smile, and for a moment, they couldn't wrap their heads around it. How was this possible? Luo Qingtong and the others were so bold? Could she really be the one who sent the Great Elder flying? On the other hand, the Great Elder was filled with anger. He couldn't believe that it was Luo Qingtong who did it. His arm was still numb. The other party's attack just now had almost crippled his entire arm. This kind of strength was at least in the Saint Lord realm. How could it be Luo Qingtong? Little slut, stop trying to scare us. This definitely wasn't done by you. The great elder's face was filled with anger. Since the person hiding in the shadows wanted to protect Luo Qingtong's group, it meant that the other party didn't have any confidence. Perhaps that attack just now was already her full strength, so Luo Qingtong wanted to scare them away. Humph? You think we'll be fooled like this? In your dreams? The great elder's face was ice cold. Since they had figured out the other party's background, they would make a move to end everything. Chapter 1804. Boom. The aura around him exploded, and his peak Saint General cultivation was revealed. Everywhere he passed, the surrounding space seemed to be cut apart and shattered into countless fragments. Along the way, the first elder seemed to carry endless killing intent and a fierce aura as he blasted towards Luo Qingtong. This attack was different from when he was dealing with Luo Qingtong, where he only used a little bit of strength. This time he attacked with all his strength, and the aura around him was terrifying and mighty to the extreme. Qingtong. Xuanhuan was with the Luo clan at this time. When the latter and the others saw that Luo Qingtong had returned, they protected Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Xianxia as they retreated. After all, they might be in even more danger if they left Luo Qingtong. If the Breeze Pavilion was driven to desperation and used them to threaten Luo Qingtong, it would be troublesome. The Luo clan had never worried that Luo Qingtong would lose. They had followed the eldest miss for so long, but they had never seen Luo Qingtong fight a battle she was not confident in. Seeing Su Yu and the others rushing towards the Breeze Pavilion, they also rubbed their palms together. Unfortunately, they had to protect Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Xianxia, so they could only give up on the idea of rushing out. Hearing Xuanhuan's worried voice, a Luo clan disciple immediately said, "Young Master Ju, you don't have to worry. Eldest Miss will be fine." That's right. This first elder will only bring about his own destruction. Grandfather Luo said solemnly at this time. He looked at Xuanhuan and said, "Young Master Xuanhuan, I won't hide this matter from you. Actually, your Breeze Pavilion's people had attacked Tong Tong before. In the northern region, Luo Qingtong had already killed all of them. This also included your junior sister and that martial uncle Zhang." Grandfather Luo told Xuanhuan everything that Song Yen, martial uncle Zhang, and the others had done. If this was before, he would definitely not reveal this to avoid causing trouble for Luo Qingtong. But now, the people of the Breeze Pavilion had already come looking for him, and the grudge had already been formed. Naturally, he didn't care about this. Moreover, Xuanhuan did not hesitate to help them. He also felt that the other party had the right to know about this matter. Little junior sister and senior uncle Zhang actually did this? After Xuanhuan finished listening to Old Man Luo's words, her entire person was stunned. To think that Song Yen would target Luo Qingtong like this. Before he saw Song Yen, he was glad that she hadn't appeared. That way the Great Elder and the others wouldn't target Luo Qingtong. Unexpectedly, the other party had already made a move on Luo Qingtong. Back in the northern region, Martial Uncle Zhang, a Saint General, had actually personally attacked Luo Qingtong. If Luo Qingtong's strength and talent were any weaker, wouldn't he have killed her? Xuanhuan felt unbearably guilty in her heart. At the same time, she was also extremely shocked. At that time, Luo Qingtong was already able to kill strong cultivators of the Saint General realm? Luo Qingtong, just how big is the gap between you and me? That young girl with a distant smile and an evil and enchanting charm was finally getting further and further away from him. And in this lifetime he might never be able to catch up to her again. Xuanhuan looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. The latter had already raised her hand and summoned the life and death duality sword. In front of her, the Great Elder's aura was crisscrossing and cutting. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. A bloody light was faintly discernible in the depths of her eyes, and it was condensed and cold. There were always some people who didn't know the difference between life and death and came to challenge her temper and patience. Chapter 1805. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're strong? Sorry, but my strength is stronger than yours. The sword in Luo Qingtong's hand slashed out. In that instant, it almost split the heavens. Heaven and earth seemed to be torn apart by her sword, as if they were being torn apart by the vibrations. The Great Elder's attack was thoroughly suppressed by her sword. Bang! Luo Qingtong's sword was accompanied by countless space fragments. It crushed everything in its path, completely annihilating the Great Elder's attack. Then, under the First Elder's shocked and terrified gaze, the First Elder was sent flying with a heavy blow. Ah! The Great Elder miserably screamed as he flew backwards. In front of Luo Qingtong, his peak Saint General strength simply wasn't enough. The young girl's aura seeped out from her body, sharp and icy. Just the aura that was vibrating around her body was enough to shatter the countless space fragments that were flying towards her along with the aftermath of the collision into powder. They were annihilated around her like crystal powder. Saint Lord Realm. The Cool Breeze Pavilion Master and the others all stared at Luo Qingtong with incomparable shock. They didn't even believe that Luo Qingtong was a Saint General, much less that she was a Saint Lord. How could she be so strong? In the mortal world of the True Spill continent, it was impossible for such a powerhouse to exist. The Saint Realm was already an extremely difficult peak to cultivate. After this, if one didn't go to the hidden world, they would be trapped in this realm forever, unable to increase their strength. Luo Qingtong was so young, how could she cultivate to such a level? With her strength, how could she cultivate so fiercely in such a barren land of the mortal world? Everyone was shocked. As for the severely wounded Great Elder, he spat out blood as he looked at Luo Qingtong with disbelief. She really was the one who attacked just now. How was this possible? Her strength, how could she be so strong? In the silent scene, the Great Elder fell to the ground. His internal organs had been shaken out of place. He lay on the ground, unable to move. He had been turned into a cripple by Luo Qingtong's sword. His robes had been torn apart by the crisscrossing sword energy, and even the hair on his head had been cut off. At this moment, his hair was disheveled, and the strength of his energy sea was constantly dissipating. My strength. My strength. The Great Elder lay on the ground, constantly howling in grief. Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils had seen through his weak point. With a single sword strike, she had shattered his Dantian's energy sea and cut off all his meridians. At this moment, the aura of power that he had nowhere to release was constantly dissipating. Chapter 1806. Pavilion Master. Seeing that the Great Elder had been sent flying by Luo Qingtong's sword and had almost become a cripple, the upper echelons of the Breeze Pavilion were shocked. They looked at the Breeze Pavilion Master in front of them. The latter had already recovered from his shock. Looking at the aura around Luo Qingtong, he sneered, "Humph, a silly girl will always be a silly girl. She can't keep her cool." His face was cold. If Luo Qingtong hadn't taken the initiative to admit that she was the mysterious person, the Breeze Pavilion Master might have been afraid. After all, he didn't know who the other party was, how many people were in the dark, and when they discovered the secret of the immortal Jade Bone. Because of his desire to obtain the immortal Jade Bone, he couldn't touch the other party and could only compromise. Otherwise, the secret of the immortal Jade Bone might be leaked. But now, Luo Qingtong actually took the initiative to admit that the mysterious person was herself. Haha. The Breeze Pavilion Master looked at where Luo Qingtong was and laughed. He waved his hand coldly and said to the higher-ups of the Breeze Pavilion beside him, "Surround her. I want to kill her personally." Since Luo Qingtong was the mysterious person, he had nothing to worry about. He would kill the other party directly, and all the secrets of the immortal Jade Bone would be his. As for Luo Qingtong, the Breeze Pavilion Master looked coldly at the aura around Luo Qingtong. This little girl was always like this. She thought that her strength as a holy lord was already very impressive. However, this strength was still not enough in front of him. Luo Qingtong was talented and monstrous, but she was still too inexperienced. She couldn't be so scheming. The Breeze Pavilion Master's face became colder and prouder as he thought about it. "Yes, Pavilion Master." The higher-ups of the Breeze Pavilion responded. Then an elder said hesitantly, "Then these people?" He looked at Suyu and the others who were rushing toward the disciples of the Breeze Pavilion. These people had great teamwork, great strength, and extraordinary battle prowess. The disciples on his side might not be able to hold on. "Don't worry about these people for now. We'll deal with them after we kill Luo Qingtong." The Pavilion Master of the Cool Breeze Pavilion swept his cold gaze over Suyu and the others. These people were nothing to be afraid of. By the time he killed Luo Qingtong, he would be able to kill these people with a wave of his sleeve. Letting Luo Qingtong escape would be the biggest problem. Yes. When the elder heard this, he did not say anything else. A group of people flew towards Luo Qingtong and surrounded her in no time. Looking at them surrounding her, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion who was slowly walking over. The latter looked at her and smiled coldly. "Luo Qingtong, I didn't expect a little girl like you to be able to cultivate to such a powerful level. If I'm not wrong, all of this is the effect of the immortal Jade Bone, right?" As the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong with a feverish gaze. If he still didn't know where Luo Qingtong's strength came from, then he would be a little stupid. Zhang Di was not that brainless. If Luo Qingtong's cultivation was at this level before, he would not have concealed her strength and disqualified her from the 4 Academies Grand Tournament. The only possibility was that Luo Qingtong was not at this level at that time. She had only become like this recently. Chapter 1807. It could only be the purified immortal jade bone. The power within the immortal jade bone was highly coveted, but no one dared to absorb its power because of the resentment and death within it. After all, if one's cultivation was not as high as that of the dead foreign cultivators, they would not be able to resist the invasion of that power. However, the purified immortal jade bone was different. The pavilion master recalled the power of the immortal jade bone that he had witnessed previously, and the ambition and passion in his eyes burned even brighter. Luo Qingtong, on account of your considerable talent and power, hand over the method to purify the immortal jade bone. Then make a heavenly oath to acknowledge me as your master, and I can spare your life. What do you think? The pavilion master looked at Luo Qingtong with a covetous expression as he spoke. The young girl's features were peerlessly beautiful and her grace was unparalleled. She was hard to find in this world. If she was willing to hand over the method to purify the immortal jade bone and swear allegiance to him, he would dote on her greatly and spare her life. Oh, is that so? Luo Qingtong watched the pavilion master's actions with great interest as she ruminated in her heart. There was an extremely faint smile on her lips. She was calm and graceful, demonic and enchanting. Then won't you pursue the matter of me killing Song Yan and Uncle Master Zhang? Since the other party was feeling so good about her, she would play with them a little longer. What? The moment she said that, the Breeze Pavilion Master and the others were all shocked. Song Yan and the others are already dead? And they were killed by Luo Qingtong? The heavily injured Great Elder, who had almost fainted, began to struggle as if he had gone mad. Ah! Luo Qingtong, you'll die a horrible death. Pavilion Master. Hurry up and kill her. Kill this SL*T. He screamed maniacally, but the pavilion master only furrowed his brows and stared at him with dissatisfaction. He then shouted sternly, "Shut up." As he spoke, he suddenly flicked out a palm wind from his sleeve and instantly blasted the Great Elder's body. All of his teeth were knocked out, and he was lying on the ground spitting out mouthfuls of blood. To the pavilion master of the Breeze Pavilion, the Great Elder was already crippled. How could he be mentioned in the same breath as Luo Qingtong? As long as the girl was willing to submit to him, Song Yan and the others could die. What was there to be concerned about? Thinking of this, he immediately said to Luo Qingtong, "Okay. As long as you submit to me, I will not pursue this matter any further." Hearing this, the first elder's heart instantly turned to ashes. He looked at the Breeze Pavilion Master in disbelief. He had never expected that after risking his life for the Breeze Pavilion for so many years, the Breeze Pavilion Master would kick him out with a single kick. He even wanted to support his enemy? Ah! He screamed crazily and wanted to curse, but because all his teeth were knocked out, he couldn't open his mouth and could only lie on the ground in despair. He thought back to how arrogant he was when he attacked old Master Luo and the others. But now he had fallen to such a state. The Great Elder's heart collapsed. He was so desperate that he almost fainted. Luo Qingtong glanced at him indifferently, then looked at the pavilion master of the Breeze Pavilion with a faint smile. She asked again, "What about the people around me? Can they live as well?" She seemed to be addicted to this game. Even her expression was extremely realistic. She seemed to be looking forward to it. Seeing that Luo Qingtong had the intention to compromise, the pavilion master of the Breeze Pavilion was overjoyed. He looked even more proud and arrogant. Chapter 1808. However, he refused without hesitation. No, they must die. The immortal jade bones could not be leaked, especially the purified immortal jade bones. There were too many people here, and the pavilion master could not take this risk. Other than Luo Qingtong, he was not going to let anyone else off. Oh, is that so? Then there's no other way. The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips had become bloodthirsty and enchanting at some point in time. None of my people can be harmed. Since that's the case, I can only let you die. As she spoke, the smile on her lips became even more sinister. After all, I have no expectations of your master. In other words, she did not care about their master at all. Hearing this, the pavilion master was first taken aback, then he flew into a rage. How dare you trick me? The pavilion master's face was filled with rage. At this point, he would be too stupid if he still did not realize that Luo Qingtong was fooling him. Seeing that the other party had fooled him like a fool, the pavilion master's face instantly turned cold. I gave you face but you don't want it. He said coldly, then waved his hand and shouted, all of you surround her. No one is allowed to let her escape. Today he was going to let her know the price of her insolence. Not submitting, not compromising? Then he would tear apart all of her pride and see if she could still be so arrogant in front of him. At that time he would make her kneel on the ground and beg him. With that thought, the pavilion master instantly leaped up and rushed toward Luo Qingtong. Bang! The energy around him shot out rapidly, and in an instant he was right in front of Luo Qingtong. His berserk and vast power was many times more powerful than the power emitted by the first elder. The pavilion master's strength at the peak of the Holy Lord realm was enough to show disdain for everyone present. He looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with a condescending expression, mockingly waiting for Luo Qingtong to show a panicked and regretful expression. She would definitely know that there was always someone better than her after seeing his strength. What was there to be so arrogant about when she had just entered the Holy Lord realm? However, he did not expect that he would be the one to be slapped in the face. Boom! Looking in the direction of the pavilion master's attack, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly, and she raised the life and death sword to meet the attack. Bang! Under the pavilion master's mocking gaze, she swung the life and death sword in her hand. In an instant, the snow-white sword light seemed to have come from the horizon, as if it had transcended time and space, ancient times and primitive times. It was breathtaking and unstoppable. Boom! The sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand shot out and almost instantly reached the pavilion master of the Breeze Pavilion. Chapter 1809. The higher-ups of the Breeze Pavilion who surrounded Luo Qingtong did not know what was going on. Pavilion master? They looked in the direction of the Breeze Pavilion master in surprise. The latter's body was rapidly retreating. However, he did not make it in time. After all, he was too confident and fast when he charged toward Luo Qingtong. He thought that Luo Qingtong, who had just entered the Holy Marquis realm, was not worth mentioning at all. However, he did not know that the one who was not worth mentioning was the ordinary Holy Marquis realm. Luo Qingtong, who had just entered the Holy Marquis realm, was absolutely abnormal and unexpected. Bam! Luo Qingtong's sword light caught up with him in midair. Then, the senior management of the Breeze Pavilion watched in shock as the Breeze Pavilion master was sent flying, just like the Great Elder had been. However, the Pavilion Master was at the peak of the Holy Marquis realm after all. He was not as miserable as the Great Elder, who was crippled in one move. Even so, the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion was still in a very bad state. Bam! His body landed heavily on the ground, covered in mud and dust. He looked battered and exhausted. There was an extremely deep sword wound on his body. It went from top to bottom and almost pierced through his abdomen. The Pavilion Master spat out a mouthful of blood. He lay on the ground with a horrified expression and looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. The latter narrowed her eyes and returned to where she was previously. She looked calm and at ease. How is it, Pavilion Master Qingfeng? Do you still want me to submit to you and acknowledge you as my master? Luo Qingtong's face was calm and she was smiling. Her smile was absolutely domineering and enchanting. Her blood-red eyes lowered as she looked at the Pavilion Master Qingfeng, who was lying on the ground in front of her. He was instantly embarrassed. You. The Pavilion Master Qingfeng looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in disbelief. He did not know how she could be so strong. How could this be? His opponent was just a new Saint Marquis. It was still possible to send the first elder flying with a single move. However, he was a peak Saint Marquis. How was it possible for the other party to be able to suppress him with brute strength that was 3 minor realms higher? After all, the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion hadn't just entered the pinnacle of the Saint Lord realm. Instead, he had been inside for many years and his strength had almost broken through to the Saint King realm. It was only because the accumulated strength in his body was not enough to break through to the Saint King realm. Luo Qingtong actually sent him flying with a single blow. How could she be so strong? How was this possible? The Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion couldn't believe it no matter what. As for the Great Elder, he had been waiting angrily for the Breeze Pavilion Master to avenge him and his daughter. However, he didn't expect to see the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion being sent flying by Luo Qingtong's sword. In an instant, a mouthful of hot blood surged in his throat, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. This is impossible. This is impossible. He roared like a madman rolling on the ground. One could see the despair in his heart. The Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion Master was a peak Saint Marquis. Luo Qingtong, who had just entered the Saint Marquis realm, could actually send him flying. How monstrous and abnormal was this woman? There was no hope for him and his daughter to be avenged. The great elder almost went crazy. Chapter 1810. However, before he could do anything, Luo Qingtong had already sent the pavilion master of the Cool Breeze Pavilion flying. In the end, this gorgeous, enchanting and bewitching woman was standing at a place that he would never be able to reach. Xianxia thought of the first time she met Luo Qingtong. At that time, the girl hadn't even reached the martial king realm. In the blink of an eye, everything had changed. The other party was no longer in existence that he could look up to. Xianxia clenched her fists tightly. On the other side, after the pavilion master of the Cool Breeze Pavilion recovered from his shock, he suddenly slapped the ground beneath him and shouted, "Let's work together to kill her." His expression was ferocious to the extreme. He had completely underestimated Luo Qingtong. Who would have thought that this unremarkable young girl who came from the secular world would actually have such terrifying talent and strength? With such battle strength, the other party was definitely comparable to a first-rate genius from a top-notch sect. It was laughable that he had thought that Luo Qingtong was only SOSO. Now he had been thoroughly slapped in the face. However, it wasn't too late for him to realize this. No matter how powerful Luo Qingtong was, she was only one person. There were quite a few Saint Generals among the higher-ups of the Cool Breeze Pavilion beside him. As long as they could hold Luo Qingtong back for an instant, he would definitely be able to find a chance to kill her. This slut just wait to die. The higher-ups of the Cool Breeze Pavilion had already recovered from their shock. Hearing this, they subconsciously rushed toward Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes, and a bloody light flashed in the depths of her eyes. Just as she was about to fully activate her ocular technique, a voice suddenly came from the space at the bottom of the cliff behind her. "And? What's going on? Tong Tong." Xuanhuan and the others had just come out from the depths of the cliff when they saw this scene. In an instant, his expression turned cold. Then the aura around him suddenly fluctuated, and he quickly shot toward where Luo Qingtong was. The higher-ups of the imperial sect followed closely behind him. Xianxia also fiercely patted the little white cat in his arms. "Do," she shouted softly, and in an instant the little white cat rushed out of her arms. It rolled on the ground and turned into a huge white tiger. Shua! Xianxia sat on White Tiger and rushed towards Luo Qingtong's direction. Boom! The group of people killed their way into the encirclement of the Breeze Pavilion's higher-ups, instantly stopping them from besieging Luo Qingtong. The people from the imperial sect were not weak. After training in the space at the bottom of the cliff for a period of time, they were several times stronger than Suyu and the others. Especially Xuanhuan, who resisted the attacks of the Breeze Pavilion's elders by himself. The other party simply couldn't hurt Luo Qingtong. Bang! Xuanhuan killed a Breeze Pavilion elder who was closest to him, then with a leap, he appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. "Tong Tong, what is going on?" His expression was stern. These people were so strong. They obviously weren't from the true Spill continent. Were they from the hidden world? Sure enough, Luo Qingtong's words confirmed his guess. They are from the Breeze Pavilion. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she glanced at him. Didn't this man promise Yi Qianxian that he wouldn't call her Tong Tong? Luo Qingtong's eyes teased him. Noticing her gaze, Xuanhuan lightly snorted. Chapter 1811. His face darkened slightly. In any case, he had promised Yi Qianxian that he wouldn't call Luo Qingtong Tong Tong in the future, but he hadn't said under what circumstances. When that man was around, he wouldn't call her that. When he wasn't around, the other party wouldn't know. Xuanhuang's face was full of righteousness. Luo Qingtong looked at him and laughed for a while. At this moment, the furious voice of the Cool Breeze Pavilion master came from the front. "Bitches, all of you must die." The Cool Breeze Pavilion master was extremely angry. The appearance of the people from the imperial sect had ruined his plan. The upper echelons of the Cool Breeze Pavilion were restrained, so he couldn't act as he had planned before and attack Luo Qingtong. "Bastard!" he shouted angrily. Then he clenched his teeth and swallowed a pill. It was a pill that could raise his strength to the Saint King realm in a short period of time. However, taking this pill would delay the Cool Breeze Pavilion master's breakthrough to the Saint King realm for several years before he could continue to break through. Originally, the Cool Breeze Pavilion master's comprehension had already reached the Saint King realm. He was just short of accumulating his strength. But now, after taking this pill, his strength wouldn't be able to continue to break through for several years. The Cool Breeze Pavilion master was extremely frustrated. With a bang, the aura around his body surged. In an instant, countless surging and fierce auras shot out from his body. Every burst of energy blasted an extremely small and deep hole in the ground. Under the shroud and flow of his aura, the sword wound on the Cool Breeze Pavilion Master's chest was healed. That was because Luo Qingtong hadn't used the power of the Death Blade before. Boom! The Cool Breeze Pavilion Master stepped out, and in an instant the mountain shattered. Under his feet, the ground suddenly cracked and countless rocks and stones shattered. The aura in his body had risen to the Saint King realm. Bang! The Cool Breeze Pavilion Master's figure swept out in an instant, attacking Luo Qingtong, Xuanhuan and the others. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She raised the long sword in her hand and rushed towards the Cool Breeze Pavilion Master. At the same time she shouted coldly, "You Xuanhuan, deal with those Cool Breeze Pavilion elders. Don't let any of them go." Luo Qingtong's face was cold and the bloody light in her eyes. She had been dealing with the Cool Breeze Pavilion Master and the others. She was waiting for the best opportunity to catch all of them in one fell swoop. At this moment, Yu Xuanhuan and the others appeared, which was exactly what she wanted. Not a single one of the Cool Breeze Pavilion elders would be able to escape. She also didn't need to worry that the Breeze Pavilion Master would try his best to escape with the help of the Breeze Pavilion's higher-ups. At that time, if he were to be careless and allow the other party to escape and leak the information about the Immortal Jade Bone and the Immortal Jade Bone, the consequences would be unimaginable. Luo Qingtong wouldn't allow herself to make such a mistake. So, she didn't use her strongest strength from the beginning. But now she had nothing to worry about. Okay. Yu Xuanhuan didn't say anything. He directly rushed towards the Cool Breeze Pavilion elders to prevent them from joining forces with the Cool Breeze Pavilion Master. At the same time, he prepared to surround and kill them with the people from the Imperial Sect. Luo Qingtong didn't have any worries. As for Luo Qingtong. Chapter 1812. Boom. As Yu Xuanhuan leaped up, the Pavilion Master also rushed to Luo Qingtong's side. "Bitch, do you really think you're invincible in the Saint Lord realm?" Seeing that Luo Qingtong was actually charging towards him, the Breeze Pavilion Master's face was filled with anger from being belittled. He admitted that Luo Qingtong's strength was extraordinary. She had sent him flying with one blow. But at that time he was only at the peak of the Saint Lord realm. Now he had advanced to the Saint King realm. Although the difference of one realm was only the last step, it was the difference between heaven and earth. He didn't believe that Luo Qingtong was so monstrous that she could fight against him when she had just entered the Saint Lord realm. The other party's arrogance and confidence would only cause her to die without a burial ground in the end. As the Pavilion Master thought this, the claw wind in his hands turned into hooks and became as terrifying as a chicken's claws. The veins on his hands bulged, and his exposed skin became as hard as metal, shining with a cold light. At the same time, the nails on his hands suddenly elongated. The nails on his hands were curved and sharp like an eagle's talons. Boom! He clawed fiercely at Luo Qingtong. The claw wind was swift and fierce, and it directly left a trail of broken and rapid shooting in the air. Just the rapid shooting wind had already shattered the space into pieces. The fragments shot out rapidly, and each step had the strength of a peak Saint Lord realm attack. Bang! Seeing the Pavilion Master's attack coming, Luo Qingtong's eyes froze. Her blood-red eyes flickered violently, and the trajectory of the Pavilion Master's attack instantly appeared in her eyes. Wind speed, hand speed, and the distribution of the attack power. Where the power was the strongest, where the power was the weakest, everything was in her eyes. Luo Qingtong had become a supreme ocular sorcerer with her blood-red eyes. Now she was going to use the power of her ocular sorcery to reach the peak of this strange world. Wherever her eyes landed, she would trample under her feet and lay the foundation of her supreme path. Boom! Luo Qingtong swung the long sword in her hand. Annihilation. As her stern voice rang out, a stream of sword light that was enough to stun the world and destroy everything in the world shot out from her sword in an instant. The life and death yin-yang sword had completely transformed into the death blade. Luo Qingtong was dressed in black. Her face was beautiful and piercingly cold. She was as dazzling as a goddess from the god realm descending to the mortal world, or as if a witch from the devil realm descending to the world. The life and death yin-yang sword in his hand flashed with a sharp black light. Like the light of the harvest of death, it flew forward. This attack directly broke through the countless spatial fragments that had been shot out by the Pavilion Master of the Breeze Pavilion. It followed the weakest point of the Pavilion Master's attack. Boom! The black sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand was like a white steed flitting through a crack, directly avoiding the most powerful part of the Pavilion Master's attack. The aura around its body annihilated all the attacking auras and transformed them into a huge boost for its sword light. The black sword light grew in size in an instant, and its aura was even stronger than before. It crushed toward the pavilion master without any hindrance. Boom, boom, boom. Cracks in the space around the sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand burst open. Chapter 1813. Countless terrifying attack auras shot out violently. It stirred up the surrounding heaven and earth spirit chi even more violently. They constantly collided in midair, emitting extremely violent and ferocious auras. Bang. The sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand flew all the way, and under the pavilion master's incredulous gaze, it directly met his claws. Boom. The two collided fiercely in midair, and an ear-piercing sound like metal striking metal exploded. Then with a swish, blood splattered. The pavilion master of the Cool Breeze Pavilion suddenly shrieked. The attack aura in his hands was completely annihilated when it came into contact with Luo Qingtong's sword light, and then transformed into the power of the other party's sword light. The strongest part of his attack was avoided by Luo Qingtong, and the weakest part of his attack couldn't withstand the bombardment of Luo Qingtong's sword light at all. Luo Qingtong was unimpeded all the way, and directly cut off his hands with a bang. Blood splattered out. The power of the death blade attacked the wound. The pavilion master's defense was supposed to be indestructible, impossible to be broken by power below the Saint King realm. Under the attack of Luo Qingtong's death blade and annihilation, it was easily broken. Bang. His body was fiercely blasted away by the aftermath of the collision of the two attacks, and he heavily smashed into the ground. Luo Qingtong's eyes were ice cold. Her figure directly swept through the air, and with a tap of her foot, she lightly stepped on the aftermath of the attack coming at her. In an instant, she stepped on the wave and attacked the pavilion master again. The sword light around her body was like a swimming dragon, and the sword chi was dense, and the sound of a dragon's roar could be heard incessantly. Boom. The tip of Luo Qingtong's sword was pointed directly at the pavilion master. That pair of blood-red eyes as they opened and closed, were full of sharpness. Seeing Luo Qingtong's attack coming at him again, the pavilion master was shocked. The light contained in the long sword was extremely terrifying, and the pavilion master's eyes suddenly widened. He never thought that Luo Qingtong was so monstrous. How was this possible? She had just entered the Saint Lord realm, but he couldn't fight back. This scene, which was similar to a fantasy, actually appeared in front of him. If Luo Qingtong was a core disciple of a top sect in a hidden world, he wouldn't be so surprised. However, the other party was clearly an ordinary girl from this ruined secular world. His talent was so monstrous and unrivaled. What level would her strength and achievements in the future? Thinking about it, the pavilion lord of the Breeze Pavilion trembled violently. Not only because of the danger he was about to face, but also because he had offended such a powerful and terrifying enemy like Luo Qingtong. If he had known that Luo Qingtong's strength and talent were so terrifying, he definitely wouldn't have allowed her to live until now, when she was strong enough to threaten him. The moment she appeared, he would have used all his strength to kill her. The pavilion master's heart was filled with extreme regret. How much he looked down on Luo Qingtong before was how much he was shocked and on the verge of collapse. But it was too late to say anything now. Bang. Star. Chapter 1814. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and shouted, I won't let you have it easy even if I die. Suddenly, several items flew out of the Breeze Pavilion master's body. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed when she saw those things. Those things flickered with silver-gray light under the gray aura of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Those things were none other than the immortal jade bones. Moreover, they were extremely pure immortal jade bones. Although they were not as big as the one Luo Qingtong had obtained before, the aura of these immortal jade bones was much stronger than the immortal jade bones that had advanced to the Saint Lord realm. These were the immortal jade bones from a Saint King realm monster. Luo Qingtong's sword instantly changed direction when she saw this. The sword light that was originally aimed at the pavilion master turned and slashed horizontally at the immortal jade bones that flew out of his body. However, she was still a step too late. There were 5 immortal jade bones that flew out of the pavilion master's body. Luo Qingtong slashed 4 of them and he bit the last one in his mouth. I want you dead. The pavilion master of the Breeze Pavilion looked at Luo Qingtong with bloodshot eyes. Then he raised his head and swallowed the immortal jade bone. Boom. As soon as the immortal jade bone entered his body, The aura in the pavilion master's body skyrocketed again, almost reaching the peak of the Saint King realm. At the same time, his body underwent a drastic change in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by an uncontrollable groan of pain, the pavilion master's body underwent a terrifying transformation. His body seemed to swell in an instant like a huge inflated balloon. At the same time, countless bloody claws and vine-like things extended out of his body. His hair grew rapidly and danced in the air like seaweed. In an instant, the pavilion master turned into an extremely terrifying and disgusting monster. Boom. Luo Qingtong's sword light bombarded his body and was instantly blocked by something that looked like scales that grew out of his body. In an instant, countless sparks shot out. The pavilion master's body was blasted back nearly a few meters, but he was not injured at all. His current strength coupled with the strange mutation in his body had forcefully attained a combat strength comparable to a Saint Emperor who had just entered the Saint Emperor realm. Luo Qingtong's sword light slashed his body, but it had no effect. Brr. He roared like a man and a beast as he directly pounced at Luo Qingtong. His hair was like a sharp sword, flying in the air and piercing towards Luo Qingtong. The claws and pincers that came out of his body were also fiercely aimed at Luo Qingtong. In the sky, on the ground, in all directions, there were his attacking figures. Every attack was comparable to the peak of the Saint King realm. In an instant, Luo Qingtong was completely Tong. Xuanhuan, who had just killed the elders of the Breeze Pavilion, turned around and saw this scene. In an instant, his pupils constricted. Old Master Luo Suyu and the others were shocked when they saw this. Master. Boss. Chapter 18:15. They didn't even care about the attacks in front of them. Instead, they rushed toward Luo Qingtong with all their might. Little Overlord Yuan, who had taken a hit from the other party, didn't even bother to fight back. Instead, he rushed toward Luo Qingtong while dripping with blood. The group of people looked at the scene in front of them, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Meanwhile, Luo Qingtong was in the attack range. She watched as the mutated Breeze Pavilion Master pounced at her with a ferocious expression. Her gaze was very solemn. She didn't expect her opponent to use the mutated immortal jade bone to deal with her. However, this didn't mean that she didn't have any other methods. Umph. Luo Qingtong let out a low shout. In an instant, Little Pig's pink and tender figure appeared in front of her. In the 9-layered exquisite pagoda, Little Pig had already learned about what was happening outside from Luo Qingtong through his special connection with her. As soon as he came out, he didn't stop to rest. He immediately leaped into the air with his 4 hooves. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's cold voice rang out. Unseal. Boom. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the purple hexagram array on her forehead suddenly appeared and started to spin rapidly. At the same time, Little Pig's body was instantly enveloped by a ball of blazing light. In the next second, roar. A roar that seemed to have penetrated through the entire primeval chaos instantly rang out. Then, an incomparably huge claw, which seemed to have come from the 9th heaven, heavily pressed down on the body of the Pavilion Master Qing Feng, who was rushing toward Luo Qingtong. Puff. The Pavilion Master Qing Feng's figure was like a balloon filled with air. In an instant he was flattened by the huge claw. Boom. The claw heavily pressed on the ground, instantly slamming the Pavilion Master Qing Feng into the ground. Countless cracks appeared on the ground. Gullies and fissures appeared under the feet of Su Yu and Su Xiaoxiao. The latter and the others were rushing over at full speed. When they saw this scene, they were both surprised and delighted. They hurriedly avoided the gully that had appeared under their feet. The remaining people of the Breeze Pavilion were stunned when they saw this scene. When the cool Breeze Pavilion Master swallowed the immortal jade bone, they thought that Luo Qingtong was dead for sure. After all, the Pavilion Master's strength had skyrocketed to such a level. No matter how monstrous Luo Qingtong was, it was impossible for her to resist him. Who knew that the other party had such a trump card? What exactly was this claw? Divine beast? Ancient mythological beast? Or was it something else? Everyone felt an indescribable tremor in their hearts. Almost all the cheers that were about to come out of their mouths were stuck in their throats. Not a single word could be said. Their faces were extremely pale, and their teeth were chattering non-stop. Then it was unknown who was the first to shout, "Run!" In an instant, the group of people covered their heads and fled like rats. Run? This was the only thought in everyone's mind. Not only was Luo Qingtong's strength terrifying, but she also had such a trump card in her hands. If they didn't leave now, they would all die here. Not good. Because Luo Qingtong was in danger, Su Yu and the others rushed over without thinking. Suddenly, no one cared about the remaining people of the Breeze Pavilion. Now these people were fleeing in all directions. If they really ran back to the hidden world and spread the news, then Luo Qingtong would be in danger. The group thought and immediately chased after them. Chapter 1816. Just as their bodies moved. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosive sounds could be heard. In an instant, the figures of the people of the Breeze Pavilion who were running outside exploded into pieces in mid-air. Countless pieces of flesh and blood fell from the sky like rain. The eyes of Su Yu and the others instantly froze. At this time Luo Qingtong was catching the falling little pig. She suddenly raised her head when she felt the movement in front of her. Then the light in her eyes instantly shrank. Luo Qingtong. In the sky above the space at the bottom of the cliff, 3 figures stood in the air. The aura of these 3 figures was even above that of the Breeze Pavilion Master. Although he wasn't as strong as the mutated Cool Breeze Pavilion Master, his aura was still at the Saint King realm. The person in front was obviously at the peak of the Saint King realm. Humph! I didn't expect you to have so many hidden cards. Elder Xie, the outer court elder of our celestial palace, was killed by you? And the 3 disciples who came to investigate the cause of Elder Xie's death were also killed by you, right? The peak of the Saint King realm powerhouse coldly said. Although his words were interrogative, the tone of his words was clear and certain. The 3 of them were ordered to investigate the cause of death of Elder Xie and the 3 disciples, as well as the whereabouts of the map of the Saint King's tomb. Originally, they were just secretly following the people of the Breeze Pavilion to see if they were secretly contacting others. They didn't expect to discover that the people of the Breeze Pavilion had gone to the true Spill continent. Then they discovered this space at the bottom of the cliff. The 3 of them were wild with joy. They forcibly suppressed the joy in their hearts and prepared to act like the mantis that catches the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. Once the people from the Breeze Pavilion obtained the celestial jade bones, they would make their move. They would surround and kill all of these people before taking the celestial jade bones away. At the same time, they would interrogate the people from the Breeze Pavilion about the cause of Elder Xie's death. However, they didn't expect that the people of the Breeze Pavilion would discover the immortal jade bone here. At the same time, they also discovered Luo Qingtong's true strength. In this unremarkable true Spill continent, there was actually such a peerless and monstrous girl hidden. Not only was her combat strength amazing, but she also had such a powerful and terrifying card. What was that claw just now? Was it transformed from the little pig in her hand? And the secret of the immortal jade bone was also in her hands? The 3 of them looked at Luo Qingtong with burning eyes, and their hearts were filled with unspeakable joy. Haha, I didn't expect we would have such an opportunity. Senior brother, the sect has really let us off easy this time by sending us out. The man behind the peak of Saint King realm said. His gaze towards Luo Qingtong was filled with unconcealable greed. He was an upper-level Saint King realm cultivator and the other person beside him was also an upper-level Saint King realm cultivator. It could be seen how important this matter was to the Celestial Palace. After the 3 disciples died, they immediately sent out the backbone of the Celestial Palace to investigate this matter. 3 Saint King realm cultivators and one of them was at the peak of the Saint King realm. Even if it was really the people of the Breeze Pavilion who did this, the 3 of them were more than enough to wipe out the entire sect. Chapter 1817. Boom. As they spoke, they released their auras, completely enveloping the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. None of the people here could escape. Luo Qingtong could naturally break through their aura barrier and leave, but what about Old Man Luo, Empress Dowager Yanxi, Suyu Tianxia, Su Xiaoxiao and the others? And the people of the Imperial Sect. Only she and xuanhuan could pass through the aura barrier of these 3 people. Could it be that they had to leave the others behind? This was absolutely impossible. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she looked at the 3 figures that appeared in front of her. Not far away, the Grand Supreme Dean also suddenly widened his eyes. My God, Celestial Palace's people? Protector? He had just arrived when Luo Qingtong killed the Cool Breeze Pavilion's master. Because he was too shocked, he was stunned and didn't rush out. He originally planned to launch a sneak attack, so he didn't leave any traces. At this moment, seeing the Celestial Palace's people appear in front of Luo Qingtong and the others, he instantly became anxious. A Cool Breeze Pavilion was enough to deal with Luo Qingtong and the others. These 3 Celestial Palace's people weren't people that Luo Qingtong and the others could deal with. Damn it, why hasn't Ming Zun come yet? Is he in the space at the bottom of the cliff? The Grand Supreme Dean was anxious. Seeing that the Celestial Palace's people were about to attack Luo Qingtong and the others, he suddenly steeled his heart and used something on his body to jump out. That thing had been on him for many years, but he had never used it in order to avoid certain people and certain things. But now Luo Qingtong and the others were clearly in danger. Not to mention anything else, Luo Qingtong had cured his internal injuries. This life-saving grace, he had to return it to her. For this, he couldn't care less about anything else. Evil Doctor Baby. Rip. The Grand Supreme Dean's voice was accompanied by the sound of silk tearing. Suddenly, he tore apart the aura barrier of the 3 Saint King realm experts at the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. His body was enveloped in a reddish-gold light barrier. The strong aura fluctuation emitted from it was not inferior to the aura of the peak Saint King realm expert. It was even stronger. At this moment, under the protection of the light barrier, the Grand Supreme Dean directly tore their barrier. He then hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong and the others, "Hurry, leave this place, I'll stop them." His face was filled with urgency. This defensive light barrier could only be used for a limited time. Luo Qingtong and the rest had to leave this place quickly. Otherwise he would not be able to hold on. Xuanhuan, take my grandpa and the others, leave immediately. Everyone from the Luo clan and xianxia retreat. Go to the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Go find Xian. Luo Qingtong immediately said decisively. The appearance of the Celestial Palace people was beyond her expectations. Little Pig had already used his power once, so it was impossible for him to use it again. With her current strength, she couldn't deal with 3 Saint King realm experts at the same time, especially when one of them was at the peak of the Saint King realm. Grandfather Luo and the others had to leave immediately. Yes. Su Yu and the others gritted their teeth and didn't say anything. They gathered together and quickly rushed to the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff. After following Luo Qingtong for so long, they knew better than anyone else. Chapter 18:18. What they needed to do now was to immediately escort the old man and the others away, so that their master wouldn't be worried, and then, to find Ming Zun. Bastard. Little Tyrant Yuan fiercely beat the back of his hand and gritted his teeth. If it wasn't for Big Brother's wife being in the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff, these people wouldn't be able to hurt Boss at all. If they have the ability, then they should come when Big Brother's husband is here. *CK. His eyes were blood red and he was about to go crazy from anger. His boss was so talented, and these trash from the hidden world only knew how to rely on their strength to bully others. When they found Xianxia, these bastards would have to bear the consequences. Bullying them for being from the secular world? They even looked down on them from the hidden world. Several attacks in a row from the Breeze Pavilion to the Celestial Palace made Little Tyrant Yuan and the others have a very bad impression of the hidden world. High and mighty your sister. Who didn't walk from the weak to the strong. When they went to the hidden world, they would definitely show these bastards who looked down on others. Little Tyrant Yuan was anxious in his heart. Su Xiaoxiao, Sima Ju, Ling Tianhan, and the others' expressions were also incomparably cold. They used to yearn for the hidden world to the extreme. But now, the people from the Celestial Palace and the Breeze Pavilion made them have no good impression of those high and mighty people who looked down on them from the so-called high and mighty places. From then on, as long as they saw the high and mighty heaven's favored ones, they would start to attack them, and started to be called the walking heaven's favored sweeper, making the foreign heaven's favored ones so angry that their teeth itched, but they couldn't do anything about it. Let's not talk about this later. Swoosh. The group of people quickly rushed to the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Xuanhuan also didn't have any opinion on Luo Qingtong's words. He knew that Luo Qingtong trusted him by leaving the safety of Old Man Luo and the others to him. The depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff were full of dangers, and he could not go together to protect Old Man Luo and the others. I'll go find Xianxia, you wait. He said to Luo Qingtong with a serious expression. Although he was extremely dissatisfied with his love rival, Xianxia. But at this moment only that man could help Luo Qingtong. She did not know how that damned man cultivated his strength. It was simply terrifying. If not for the fact that his strength was not weak, he would have been beaten to death by the other party. Thinking of this, Xuanhuang's heart was depressed and he gritted his teeth. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. She didn't say anything else and directly turned around and rushed towards the direction of the Grand Dean. The latter was trying his best to fend off the 3 Celestial Palace protectors, preventing them from pursuing Luo Qingtong and the others. The reddish gold shield on his body could withstand the attacks of the three people, so they couldn't hurt him. Just like that, he kept the three celestial palace protectors entangled, not allowing them to take even half a step closer to him. However, at this moment he saw Luo Qingtong turn around and instantly stared at her. "Hey you little girl, why did you come back?" The Grand Dean stomped his feet in anger. He finally managed to stop the three people. Why did Luo Qingtong come back? She couldn't beat them. These three people can't be let go. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. At the same time, she glanced at the reddish gold shield on the Grand Dean. Chapter 18-19. Under the series of attacks from the three people, the light of the protective shield dimmed quite a bit. Obviously there was a limit to the use of this shield. The Grand Supreme Dean might not be able to hold on until he left safely. Moreover, if he left, these three people would fly into a rage out of humiliation and would absolutely not let the Grand Dean off. At that time they would surround him and exhaust the power of his shield. The Grand Supreme Dean would be in danger. Luo Qingtong would not leave the Grand Supreme Dean alone. "Hey you evil doctor child." The Grand Supreme Dean felt touched and warm. Just as he was about to say something, the three Celestial Palace experts saw Luo Qingtong return and instantly rushed toward her. Seeing this, the Grand Supreme Dean did not have time to speak and hurriedly tried to stop them. However, Luo Qingtong stopped him. "No need, Grand Supreme Dean, you just protect me. Wherever I tell you to go, you go there. Don't worry about their attacks." Luo Qingtong's eyes were slightly cold. The power of the Grand Supreme Dean's pure gold shield was limited. She had to try her best to prolong the time for him so that the shield outside his body could last a little longer. "Ah!" Luo Qingtong's words stunned the Grand Supreme Dean. Before he could react to what Luo Qingtong was saying, the girl's shout had already sounded. "Upper left, Jianghu position." The Grand Supreme Dean's figure subconsciously followed Luo Qingtong's voice and stood in that direction. However, there was no attack coming from that direction at all. What the hell was this girl doing? Did she want to face the three Celestial Palace protectors alone? They were two upper-level Saint Kings and one peak Saint King. Could this girl stop fooling around? "Hey evil doctor child." The Grand Supreme Dean looked at Luo Qingtong and wanted to twist his body back. However, Luo Qingtong's words stopped him. "Grand Supreme Dean, trust me." Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes flickered. "I won't put the two of us in danger." Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Instantly, the Grand Supreme Dean gritted his teeth. "Alright, let's do it. I'll just trust this little kid." The other party had cured the chronic illness in his body and allowed his cultivation to recover. This alone was equivalent to saving half of his life. You would believe him just this once. Boom. As the Grand Supreme Dean spoke, the sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand shot out in an instant. Then, it violently blasted towards the three Celestial Palace powerhouses in front of her. "You overestimate yourself." The three Celestial Palace protectors snorted coldly. Originally, they were still rather fearful of the reddish gold barrier that enveloped the Grand Supreme Dean. At this moment, seeing that Luo Qingtong had sent him away and told him to believe her, they all sneered. This young girl with monstrous talent was confident to the point of arrogance. If she could deal with the three of them alone, the people around her wouldn't have had to run away like a coward. After dealing with the two of them and finding out the secret of purifying the celestial jade bones, they would find the people who had fled and kill them all. These people thought that they could escape in the end. Little did they know that when they sealed off this area, they had already left a unique mark on them. When that time came, none of them would be able to escape. The news of the celestial jade bones must not be leaked. Chapter 18-20. Boom. Their attacks were directed at Luo Qingtong. They wanted to capture her first before surrounding and killing the Grand Supreme Dean. Then they would go after Old Master Luo and the others. Their attacks were directed at Luo Qingtong from three different directions. Finally, they converged at one point and blasted at the sword light that Luo Qingtong had shot out. They were waiting for Luo Qingtong's sword light to shatter. Then their attacks instantly pierced through to injure and capture Luo Qingtong. However, when their attacks collided with Luo Qingtong's sword light, something shocking happened with a boom. Their attacks collided with Luo Qingtong's sword light. Then, at the same time and from different angles, the three attacks were guided by Luo Qingtong's sword light and collided violently with each other. In an instant, their attacks were neutralized by the collision. Then, the last remaining ray of light was reflected from the direction of Luo Qingtong's sword light. Bang! That attack landed where the Grand Supreme Dean was standing and was completely blocked by him. What? The three experts from Celestial Palace widened their eyes in disbelief when they saw this scene. Even an ordinary new Saint King would not be able to block the combined attacks of the three of them. How could Luo Qingtong, who had just entered the Saint Marquis realm, block and distort the power of their attacks? It should be known that it was impossible to cause their attacks to deviate if they were not equally strong. However, Luo Qingtong had done it with an attack that was much weaker than theirs. Although the deviation was limited, it was still within the range of her attack. However, because the Grand Supreme Dean had blocked it, their attempt to capture and kill her had become a joke. What was going on? How could this be? However, they did not know that in Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes, the surrounding environment, wind speed, and the flow of spatial energy were all displayed in 3D in front of her eyes. Luo Qingtong had calculated everything. She deliberately directed her sword light at a specific speed and angle towards the three experts from Celestial Palace so that their attacks would deviate when they collided with her sword light. This principle could be explained by using 4 ounces to deflect 1,000 pounds. However, what Luo Qingtong needed to do was much harsher than deflecting 1,000 pounds with 4 ounces. 1 against 3. A beginner holy marquis against 3 holy kings. Luo Qingtong's figure stood proudly on the spot. The aura around her was like a rainbow. She pointed the sword light in her hand and looked disdainfully. Her black clothes was domineering and as enchanting as a demon. Come and fight, bastard. As Luo Qingtong pointed the tip of her sword at them, the 3 Celestial Palace protectors could not stand such provocation. This was a young girl who had just entered the Holy Marquis realm. They were 3 Saint King realm masters. 2 of them were upper holy kings and 1 was peak holy king. Even so, they could not do anything to her. They had really thrown their faces to the bottom of the mud. The Grand Supreme Dean's shout of surprise made the veins on their foreheads throb. They were furious. Ah! Well done, evil Dr. Kid. The Grand Supreme Dean was surprised and delighted. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.